Hello everyone, welcome back to the writer's room. It has been far too long. First of all, I'm so sorry that it has taken me so long to update you here. I was abroad for study abroad, and then I came back and I was working and I was doing a ton of stuff, getting a lot of writing done, but I just really wasn't filming anything, so apologies for the lack of updates. But we're back! I'm back at school, resetting my whole life, we're doing great. If you don't know who I am, my name is Catherine Rollins. I am currently working on my debut fantasy novel and fantasy series. I am a huge reader. I love all things storytelling, creative arts, all the fun things. So if you want to follow along on the journey, please like and subscribe. Also, please follow along on my Instagram. My Instagram is author Catherine Rollins. Simple and easy. That's where I post a lot more just general, like, quick updates, more fun things like that, and just more day-to-day life stuff. So please follow along if you want to see the whole journey and get some behind-the-scenes advanced things. Yeah. Okay, so today's video is one of my favorite topics currently, and something I have literally not stopped thinking about since January of 2025 when this book came out, because the first time I read the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros I was snowed in my dorm freshman year, and when I tell you I read all 3 books because ONYX STORM had just come out, I read all 3 books in like 2.5 days. I was sitting there so locked in because it was so good, and I have not stopped thinking about the ending of ONYX STORM for like a year, 2.5 years, whatever. Anyway, so spoiler warnings for all of ONYX STORM, for all of Iron Flame, for all of Fourth Wing. If you have not read the Empyrean series, I'm so sorry, but please, please, please save this video and come back to it because I do not want to spoil anything for you. So, with that out of the way, we are talking about today, who is the brother? Y'all. There's too many theories. There's too many. I have seen so many theories, but I have personally narrowed it down to basically 2 options. There's kind of a third. 2 of them go together. 1 of them is alone. And it all hinges between these 2 on one question. Do the POV chapters at the end of ONYX STORM happen at the same time, layered one on top of each other, or are they in timeline chronological order? That is the determination for who the brother is, because I think Rebecca put it on the page and we know. We just have to figure it out. So, without further ado, here we go. Okay, so here is our list of suspects, which is kind of a long list, unfortunately. But it's okay, because we can already go ahead and cross some people off. First of all, Violet, gone. We know originally from an interview that Rebecca wanted Violet to be the one who turned Venom, which would have been, I'm sorry, I think amazing. But she got pulled back in edits, and that's completely okay because we still have Xaden as Venom. So, you know, it's okay. We still have big deal, big main character as an evil guy, which we are going to see Xaden in his villain era, which I'm very excited for. So, obviously, Violet is crossed off. Second of all, Rebecca tells us in multiple interviews, she has said, the brother is someone, pay attention to who's not there at the end of the book. So, automatically, Brennan and Imogen are both crossed out. I know, Brennan is a huge theory, but he's there at the end. He wakes her up, and Rebecca said, pay attention to who's not there at the end. So, Brennan and Imogen are both out. There's a whole sidebar theory on whether Imogen has been wiping Violet's memory for longer than just this one instance of the 12 hours, and we can get into that at a later date. But Imogen is not the Venom. Okay, now, the second clue Rebecca has given us in interviews is that it's someone who doesn't feel like they have enough. It's the reason that Venom pull ever. It's the reason people turn no matter what. It's because they don't have enough. So, with that, we can pretty much guess that it's either gonna be Bodhi or Garrick. Our first thought is Bodhi when we hear that. because he has been always second. He's always been the step behind Xaden, like so close but not quite. Always the shadow, always a step behind, never quite enough. So our first thought with that is Bodhi, and then also some context clues from Imogen's chapter tell us that Garrick could possibly also be there. So I'm going to put a star next to both of their names. Now, the third thing is in Xaden's POV chapter, when he's talking about who the brother is, he mentions that it's somebody who has known from the beginning what he's been struggling with, which isn't a lot of people. It's the marked ones, and possibly Auric. So, we can go ahead and cross off Riddick, Sawyer, and Rhiannon, because they only just found out. They haven't known the whole time. So, those three are all crossed out, which really does just leave us with Bodhi, Garrick, or Auric. Auric, we know, has precognition. And we know that his signet manifested sometime in Iron Flame, which means he could have known what Xaden was struggling with the entire time. And Xaden, being able to read people's intentions, might have known that. So, we have three main suspects in my eyes: Garrick, Bodhi, and Auric. Now, Garrick and Bodhi are the two that I'm going to group together here because of Imogen's chapter 63. Now, personally for me, I believe theory number 2 is more likely than theory number 1. So I'm going to go into theory number 1 first, which is still a possibility, but I think that it's almost like a red herring. So this is under the condition, theory 1 is under the condition that Imogen's chapter happens before Xaden's chapter in the timeline order of events of the Battle of Drathus, okay? At the very end, very, very end of Imogen's chapter, it says, so this is the last 4 paragraphs on page 511 of Imogen's chapter in chapter 63. Venin, are you weaving? He asked Trissa. We're starting. Her gaze darts over to me. They'll be weak until we can bolster them with more power, but it's our best shot. It's still not enough. Garrick's head hangs as he stands. I can't. He sighs and strides through the door. I obey the simple instinct to follow, shoving myself to my feet and forcing my body to move. There's a battle. We're in a war. Malik might claim more lives. I follow him past in this little room where Felix works besides cases of alloy-hilted daggers, all imbued, all humming with power. Then I step outside into the rain and stare. Houses burn. Wyvern and griffin bodies lie in the middle of crumpled rooflines. Civilians scream. Kroth sails through the sky and takes a wyvern straight to the ground. Bodhi is on his hands and knees across the town square, retching. If Darkwielders are draining the city walls, we're next. Where are you going? I shout at Garrick's back. I can't walk again, even if I made it to Orisha. I'd never be strong enough to get back, he calls over his shoulder. So I'd better find some fucking way to do something. I unsheathe my last alloy-hilted dagger and stare up at the wyvern-filled sky. Then I make my way back and slip Quinn's last dagger from her thigh sheath and reach for Glane. Tell every rider within the walls to get over here and disarm. It's the only way we're living through this. Outside, the sky darkens further. Sorengale better take their leader all the way the fuck out, or this will have been for nothing. So, if this is before Xaden's chapter, we see 2 things. First of all, Bodhi is in the corner, retching on his hands and knees. And Garrick is walking away, knowing he doesn't have enough power to distance walk again. And he isn't enough. He has to do something. So, this is where it could be Bodhi or Garrick. Garrick, at the very end of the book, is mentioned by name as being missing, somebody who's not there. So that's a clue in his direction, that it's by name mentioned, that he is not there. Bodhi, we just learned, is not enough. Again, his signet is fighting off other signets, but that didn't work on Theophany. It didn't work on the Venin. So everything that he's been trained to do, the one thing that he's good at, he's learned he's not enough. And so he's not enough. And he's on his hands and knees retching, and that could be after he pulled from the source because he's not enough, and he's retching because he's horrified by what he's just done. So that's the Bodhi camp. Garrick, because he's always been Xaden's right hand, and he's always been enough for him, and he just watched Imogen, one of his best friends, possibly more, lose somebody so incredibly close to her, and lose somebody close to all of them. But he just had to carry his best friend's body out of a building while she held on to somebody she loves. And he's not enough to help it, to stop it, to do something. So that is where Bodhi and Garrick, possibly one of them or both of them, could be the brother. Both of them knew Xaden was struggling. Both of them are not there at the end. And both of them are not enough. Out of the two, if it is theory one, I think it's Bodhi, because he's been so amplified as never being enough, never quite being there, and always also been compared to Xaden as a brother. So there are those two possibilities in theory one. Theory two is what I believe the most. Let's talk about Auric. If Imogen and Xaden's chapters are happening at the same time, which I believe they are, then Garrick and Bodhi cannot be the brother, and there is one person left who possibly knew Xaden was Venin for the whole time, maybe didn't feel like enough because he kept trying to get the message to Violet. He kept trying to help her. He kept trying to do something. But he's also not quite enough. He's not the first in line. And though he doesn't want to be, he knows that not being first in line isn't going to change this war. If his father, King Tori, and his brother, Halden, keep hurting everybody around them, he's not enough to do anything about it. He's not enough to fight them. So that's where he could have felt like he was not enough. But let's talk about why I think Imogen and Xaden's chapters are happening at the same time. So, in Xaden's chapter, as he's reaching for the ground and as he's tunneling to save Sigale, he's pulling from the earth, becoming more than an initiate. He says, I still feed, tunneling deep into the source of magic itself and surging outward simultaneously, finding the identical heartbeats that mark Wyvern and slicing through the scales with Shadow, ripping their runestones free. I start with the one who dared set its teeth in Sigale's shoulder, skim past the one who now thinks himself my brother, then destroyed the 6 blocking the entrance to the canyon. Save them. The last remaining pieces of me beg, holding on with teeth and claw to keep me from being torn away too. My shadows surge from the canyon, over the city, ending every wyvern in the air and on the ground. I'm everywhere at once, shredding the net that ensnares Sigale, tearing the heart from the wyvern who has Dane and Kath backed into a corner, rushing over Imogen as she looks to the sky. I'm at the pass, plucking wyvern off one by one, listening with satisfaction as their bodies hit the ground in front of the people she loves. I stream up the cliffside, fall back at the magic that burns at the touch, and surge north. So, that's right before he saves Violet. Imogen is looking up at the sky as darkness rushes over her. And at the end of Imogen's chapter, she says the sky turned dark, and she most likely, right after her chapter ends, walked outside and saw darkness flying over the sky. And at this point in Xaden's chapter, we've already been introduced to the brother, talked to Berwyn, talked to Panchek, who's possibly dead. I think Panchek's dead because his dragon. So yeah, Panchek, we've talked to them. So the brother has been there for a hot minute. So even if Imogen's chapter happened right before that, Bodhi distance walking to where that is would have happened right then. So there's not enough time for all of this to happen leading up to it if it is Bodhi or Garrick. So that leaves Auric. When Auric drops off the knife with Violet, he flies toward the direction of this valley. And there is a possibility that with not being enough to stop his dad and his brother alone, with not being there at the end, with having his precognition, he could have known Xaden was Venin from the whole start, and Xaden knew that. And also, at the end of the day, he could have seen what it takes to cure the Venin, or what the outcome of all of this would be, and knew what he had to do in order to get there. I think the brother is Auric. If not Auric, then Bodhi. And I am 99.9% sure of this. Now, I could be wrong. However, I have reread this 4 times now. This whole series 4 times through now. And there is just not a doubt in my mind. Because it can't be Mira, Brennan, Imogen, Violet, Riddick, Sawyer, Rhiannon. It can't be any of them. So, who's left? Anyway, that is my theory on who the brother is and my explanation. Please, I would love to hear everybody's thoughts. If anybody has any like wild, crazy theories, please drop them in my comments. I would love to read them. But hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for coming back to the writer's room. I will see you again soon. Bye.